Welcome to the Brain Factor podcast with Joy and Laura, powered by Meridian Healthcare, approaching wellness with heart, one life at a time, one community at a time. This is a science-based conversation about real life. Our goal? To leave you with a few nuggets of wisdom, smile on your face, and maybe even a laugh or two. So let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of The Brain Factor. My name is Laura, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Joy. And we have Lauren Cohen, CEO of Meridian Behavioral Healthcare, who's also joining us, as promised, this month to talk about anxiety. But we've talked about anxiety before. This month, we're going to talk about it in a little bit of a different way. We're going to talk about our relationship with the anxiety that we experience, because we've noticed a trend among people saying phrases like "my anxiety." Oh, I can't do that because my anxiety is gonna prevent me from doing that, or is getting in the way. And there's an ownership quality that we want to discuss whether that's serving us or not. Because I think if we make a small change in the words that we use, our relationship with anxiety and fears and doubts changes. So, and you brought this topic up initially. You were inspired.
Yes. So a lot of our episodes start with me saying this. So I was on social media and the song "My Anxiety," was trending on TikTok. And
Anxiety, keep on trying me. Feel it quietly, trying to silence me. Yeah. Anxiety, shake it off of me.
I started to think about that, and I'm like, it's not your anxiety. You don't own it. It's just a state of being. It's part of a journey. It's something you're going through. You're experiencing anxiety.
Right.
So I started doing a little bit more research, and I saw Mel Robbins, who does the Let Them book, very qualified. She was talking with Oprah, and they were talking about language and how language impacts the way things play out. They were talking about the same thing that I wanted to. And they were saying, or at least Mel Robbins was saying, that your language shapes your relationship.
Yes.
And you have to think of anxiety as just something that's happening, that you're unsure about something in a specific point in time. And that's all it is.
Right.
It's not before, it's not after, and you don't own it. It's not a part of you. It's just a thing, like a headache. It's going to come and go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think this is really relevant to a lot of folks, because over 30% of adults experience anxiety. So this is something that we're not talking about a fraction of people. It really is very common. And I hear all the time, friends and coworkers say, "My anxiety," almost like it's a boss. Anxiety is not going to let me do that. I would need a permission from you. So I think there's definitely a lot of people going through that here. And I think it goes back, since I know we always like to relate things to protective factors, which I love about this podcast, into that self-regulation, that
For sure.
key component, I think is really helpful in dealing with these things.
I think possibly even self-awareness too, because that's where it starts, right? Any good regulation starts with the awareness, like, am I even doing this? Right? Is this even my thing? And then interestingly enough, those two things are also pillars of resiliency.
Yes.
So that helps us really bounce back from some of the stuff that might be causing our anxiety. And it's like, as a collective, it's like a shared ownership. But yeah, no, it's and I'm glad you shared that statistic, because it is such a normal part of the range of human emotions. We tend to it's I think it gets confusing, because again, we talk about words we use and verbiage, and it's also a diagnosis, or it can be words used in a diagnosis, right? So we tend to think that's just a disorder, right? But no, like it's 30%. My goodness, that's look how many people are in this room. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's every room we walk into. That's everyone we intersect with. That's a portion of every group we're in. That's most of us, have experienced anxiety and or will in the future. And so how do we ever move past that if we're just keeping it and owning it? And
Wonder if we own it, though, if we say it like we own it. Did that come about maybe because it helps us a little? Because if I say, "Oh, my anxiety, I can't talk about this," then I'm off and I can go. But if I say, "Well, I'm really having a problem with what's happening between us right now.
Yeah. Listen, we need to talk about our relationship.
Actual conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
And I might just be having a difficulty, like Mel Robbins says, you're having a difficulty with something in that moment.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. And I think it reminds me of what we talked about with you last month about the changing landscape of,
That's what I was just thinking.
yep, attitudes, stigma, all of
Mhm.
that, right? So like, yeah, maybe that's where that came from, but we know more.
Yeah, we know better.
Anxiety
Know better.
was one of the earlier things that became okay to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. It became a little bit more of that. Okay, I'm allowed to share this. I can say this, and everyone is generally accepting of it. And I think there at one point was the perception of naming it and calling it mine is maybe empowering or giving ownership to it. Right. But we do. Now we know.
Yeah. And maybe also a little bit of like mine is different than yours.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe in the beginning where it was a personal experience that we were sharing
Yeah.
and getting used to normalizing talking about that, that could be where some of that is coming from.
That makes
But now we've gotten away from some other core principles that we already did the work on that we already know, right? Like people first language.
Yes.
Like we know that, right? Like no one is a disorder, right? They're a person first, but then we didn't ascribe that to ourselves. We decided that we were going to lead with it with anxiety instead of our experience of that.
because we're not actually our emotions. Our emotions are just states that we go through.
Right.
I think by saying it's by saying my anxiety, you're giving it a persona that then you aren't going to get away from, maybe, or recover from, or it's not temporary. It's just something. And maybe something was anxiety inducing, but it doesn't mean you can't do that something again and work through that. But by saying, well, my anxiety, that will really, I'll have a difficult time because of my anxiety, implies a state of permanency, right?
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. That's where a language shift, I think, could really help with the mindset and moving through it.
Yeah, this is challenging for me. I may experience some anxiety during this conversation.
Exactly.
But we need to have it.
Yeah, but I'm going to get through it. And here's some strategies. I know how to do that.
I think too that there's a bit of a catch-22, right? We talk about like self-awareness and self-regulation. Well, with that then comes like I might know things that might trigger anxiety in me, right? So then I'm proactively saying things like, well, my anxiety is going to be triggered by that, right? Versus in the past I've experienced some anxiety in situations like that, so I'm not sure what to expect, and I might proactively prepare for that.
Yeah,
doesn't mean we still can't say I have enough self-awareness to know that this might be difficult. But again, it's really all about the words that we use. And I know for some of our viewers and listeners, like that might sound a little woo-woo, right? Like go in and just change our words and everything's gonna be fine, right? But like 30% of us, come on, right? Like we're doing something wrong. Like let's try this. This is easy and free. And there's a lot of evidence to support that our words matter, right? Our words matter. The way that we name things and ownership matters in relationships.
With tons of research on labeling and with diagnoses or different, or you label yourself something or you call your kids something and then they start to believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like turns out I'm good at math, Mom.
Yes.
Like, who knew? I didn't know that, right? So like that's true. But and that's why I think what you said is important. That's why this feels counterintuitive, because we label things as human beings as our way of understanding them and sorting them. That's just how we're wired. And so, but we're new at experiencing and understanding mental health. We just talked about that last month, right? So now it's like, okay, we labeled that sufficiently. Where is this not serving us anymore, right? And how do we how do we then back off of some of those behaviors?
Yeah, I think these are also, addressing this is connected also, I think, to coping skills and support systems. And as you said a little while ago, self-awareness. So I think those can all support that language move from my anxiety, because you're my support system. You're my support system. No matter how you girls feel about that, my support system. So you can help me in that because you are good friends, because we have a close relationship. You can help me with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
and call me out on it.
Yep.
Even.
Yeah. Because that was the one question I had is like, what if my relationship with anxiety is ownership? Right? What if I have a toxic relationship with anxiety and I very much feel like it's mine, and I very much feel like my experience is different than yours or yours, and I very much can't set that down and walk away from that, right? Like, what can I do to start to make the mindset change? Yeah. Do I start with the words or do I start with the mindset change? Like, where do I go? What do you guys think?
I think the words are easier to start with than a total mindset shift, just for me anyway.
For sure.
I think the words are the place to
Easiest thing
to change, and then the more you say them, the more you adopt that ideology or that actual belief. It's hard to shift your mindset overnight. So I think the more we can shift the language, then
if you can,
and it's
start to call it something different. So one, we can take a step back, and to get us out of my anxiety, I can maybe do some grounding techniques or think about, oh, this cup, this purple thing, this, my desk, here's this microphone. I like her soft teal shirt. Okay, so now I've taken my mind off of my anxiety. So now maybe I want to rename it to experiencing anxiety or Bob.
Yes.
Why not?
Well, it's so interesting that
Really, that got pain right now.
what I love about that, and I'll share, and for those of you who have heard me talk about this before, you know that I do have her permission and she speaks very freely about it. But my daughter was diagnosed with OCD, which is at its core an anxiety disorder, when she was 10 years old. And she is almost 17 now. And she's my little advocate. She's my little mental health advocate. But she, one of the first things she was taught in therapy was to name her OCD. And see, I even just said it just now, her OCD, right? But she, it's so ingrained. But she named what she was experiencing and personified it. And so her name was Herman. And even till this day, I think she'll be 40 and still saying like, that was Herman's father, like Herman doesn't like that. And now we're at the point now where at 17 years old, she's really able to separate what is a her thought and what is a Herman thought.
Yeah.
And because the response is different. Yeah. Right. We don't feed anxiety. We don't feed intrusive thoughts. We don't, she went through exposure therapy. That's a whole other podcast episode, but to bring an expert on for that. But, so the response is very, very different. There's no reassurances that occur with a Herman thought. And so I love that you threw in naming. You make a light or just something that's not mine. It's something I had a relationship with.
Yeah.
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 Bob is bugging me.
Yep.
I had no idea, by the way, it was going to bring that awesome right behind it. What I was thinking about was my close, very, very, very close cousin that I grew up with. Whenever we were doing bad stuff, she would call herself Vanessa instead. So it would be like, oh, that was Vanessa. But not revealing her real name.
My friend Pam is also sometimes Pamela.
Pamela.
Yeah, you don't want to meet Pamela?
Like, you are.
But yeah, I really do like that because we started off this episode by saying it's a relationship. How do we most recognize relationships? Right? Our relationships are with other people. And so
they all have
a little bit of personification might make that easier.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You just have to think about the fact too that it's just temporary. Always temporary. But I think when some people experience anxiety at different levels. So sometimes when I experience anxiety, it's not really horrible. There's only been a couple times where I've had to put my head between my legs and kind of just, try to recover. Usually it's just like, okay, blah, 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 and I can get through it. But some people have debilitating anxiety that makes
or like a panic attack.
Yeah. So I think it's not really the best thing for me to say, like, oh, just change your words. So you breathe right now and you wouldn't hear anything, but you can maybe do something grounding.
Yeah, but in that situation, a panic attack is not your panic attack. It's still something you're experiencing.
Yes.
It's just strong and might require different tools. But there's a lot of power, I think, in taking that back.
I think
you don't belong to me.
That's Alice. That gets a name too. Alice and Bob are here, but I'm just
we're gonna bow friend
in the when you're with Alice, I think it might be a little bit harder for someone to be able to disconnect.
Sure, yeah, for sure. And I think it changed, and I think maybe it's outside of those moments when you're thinking about it, reflecting on it, speaking about it, or preparing for it. That those are maybe the language opportunity shifts. Certainly not.
Yeah. That's where we build those habits that we hope show up in those moments, and if they don't, then it doesn't get it.
Yeah, recognizing the early response signs, I think, are, having a friend who's gone through that, and I've, helped and spoken with her about it. Recognizing some of those early signs and physiological changes that happen, and not feeling powerless, feeling like, okay, I know that this is a part of the anxiety that I experience, and these are some things I can do in this moment to start responding to that instead of waiting till it's far gone, and then you're saying I can't do anything.
Right.
My anxiety.
It's my anxiety. Yep. So what's our challenge to our viewers and listeners? How can they start this process for themselves?
I think they could start when you're not in a state of anxiety. Maybe think about what you want to call your anxiety. Like, have a pre-plan in place. We've talked about emotional hacks before in the past, and we've talked about pre-planning.
The power in proactivity.
Yeah. So when something's gonna come, or it may come, you prepare in advance. So I mean, I'm gonna call mine Bob now, since I named him today.
You did. We were all witnesses.
His name is Bob. So maybe if I have that in advance, and I think about also what I'm going to do, what grounding techniques I'm going to use when it comes up. And I think that would be a really cool thing for our viewers to do. So maybe just write down or think or put in your notes in your phone that you're going to call you can use Bob if you want. I know it's the best name for anxiety, but sorry to all your first one. Sorry to all. Yeah. And then maybe put a couple of grounding techniques down in your notes as well, so that you have that there. And I know you're not going to, when you're having anxiety or experiencing it, you're not going to pull out your phone and look, but maybe you'll remember.
Sure.
Yeah. Be able to start that.
I love that. So you heard it. That's your homework.
Yeah.
Let us know. Drop in the comments. Let us know how it went. Let us know if it's something that you struggle with. And remember, you are not your emotions. You just experience them just like everybody else. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to The Brain Factor. Joy and I are so thrilled to be having these needed conversations. We'd love to hear your feedback on this episode, so if you could drop a comment or leave a review with your thoughts or any requests that you may have, it would be appreciated. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Living a healthier and happier life starts with one step, and we're excited to be on this journey with you. Until next time.